Dr. Eliza Chen leaned against the weathered parapet of her apartment rooftop, the cool night air carrying distant sirens and the smell of rain. Her fingers traced the edge of her tablet, its screen filled with theoretical models of extraterrestrial governance hierarchies, work that had earned her ridicule among her university colleagues for years. The midnight sky above Manhattan fractured without warning. Massive ships materialized through rippling atmospheric distortion fields, elegant, crystalline structures that defied Earth's architectural imagination. No explosions, no death rays, just silent, overwhelming presence as smaller craft detached and descended toward major cities worldwide. Precisely as I predicted, she whispered, activating her recording equipment while the rest of humanity stared upward in collective shock. By dawn, CNN broadcast alien representatives stepping onto the manicured lawn of the United Nations headquarters. Tall, graceful beings with 4 arms and iridescent skin spoke in perfect English about mutual prosperity and developmental assistance, while world leaders nodded in stunned agreement. Dr. Chen watched her former department head stammering explanations on a news panel, the same man who'd called her paranoid and unscientific just months earlier. 3 days later, Earth's nations signed the Protectorate Accords in a lavish ceremony broadcast globally. The alien coalition, calling themselves the Galactic Consortium, promised technological advancements, medical breakthroughs, and environmental restoration. In exchange, they requested only minimal resource extraction rights and cultural integration liaisons in government offices. The stock markets soared. Religious leaders debated. Social media exploded with alien memes. 1 week later, the truth began to emerge. Dr. Chen stood at the edge of what had been the central Amazon rainforest, now a massive crater housing an alien processing facility that had appeared overnight. Horrified environmental scientists calculated that an area the size of Connecticut had been obliterated in hours. This is standard Tier 4 species integration, a consortium administrator explained to protesting Brazilian officials, 6-fingered hands moving gracefully as translator devices converted his chittering speech. Your classification allows for resource utilization within acceptable parameters. When officials demanded to know what Tier 4 meant, the answer came with polite indifference. Technologically capable, but politically immature, requiring supervision and development. Within a month, integration officers appeared in government offices worldwide. Decisions required their approval. Dissent was met with polite requests that carried unmistakable finality. Nations that resisted found their power grids mysteriously failing, their water supplies tainted, their leaders suffering sudden, unexplainable health crises. Dr. Chen's encrypted message arrived as she cataloged examples of the alien bureaucracy dismantling human autonomy while maintaining its facade. You were right. Meeting tonight. Bring your research. The basement beneath an abandoned Chicago factory smelled of damp concrete and desperation. Inside, Dr. Chen found former enemies united by shared realization. Russian intelligence officers huddled with American Special Forces operators, Chinese scientists comparing notes with European hackers. "We've been conquered through paperwork," said the man who'd introduced himself only as Jackson, his military bearing evident despite civilian clothes. And nobody noticed until it was too late. Chen connected her encrypted tablet to the projector. "The consortium operates through absolute hierarchy," she explained, displaying her theoretical models alongside observed alien behaviors. 7 species, thousands of worlds, millions of years of development, all arranged in perfect, predictable order. "So what's our move?" asked a former Israeli Mossad agent. "We can't exactly outgun them." Dr. Chen's smile was tight with determination. "We don't have to. Their entire system relies on prediction and categorization. And if there's one thing humans excel at..." She tapped her screen, displaying Earth's chaotic history of adaptation and survival. "It's being completely unpredictable." Anomaly detected in behavioral prediction matrix. The holographic alert pulsed crimson in Varnka's private quarters, casting the room in blood-red light. The four-armed bureaucrat's skin shifted from its normal iridescent blue to a troubled purple as reports streamed across multiple displays. According to every prediction algorithm refined across 12,000 years of galactic governance, what Varn-K was witnessing should be impossible. 3 consortium processing facilities had exploded simultaneously across 3 continents. The execution was flawless, the timing precise to the millisecond. Such coordination required either central command capabilities Earth shouldn't possess, or a level of autonomous synchronization no Tier 4 species had ever demonstrated. Varn-K's upper right hand tapped a sequence, bringing up behavioral analysis data collected over the 6 months since integration began. The patterns made no sense. Humans formed alliances across cultural boundaries that, according to sociological constants, should remain impermeable. They communicated using cultural references that shifted meaning daily. They created and discarded technologies with reckless abandon. Requesting system recalibration, Varn-K communicated through neural channels to the central predictive matrix. The response came immediately. No error detected. Human behavior exceeds standard deviation parameters by 87.3%. Deep in the Appalachian Mountains, former Marine Commander Jackson Reed hunched over stolen consortium tablets, surrounded by an unlikely war council. A teenage hacker from Seoul traded notes with a Siberian wilderness guide. A Kenyan agricultural engineer debated tactics with a Brazilian chemist. 27 nations represented in one room, united by one purpose. They expect us to think like their hierarchy, Jackson explained, manipulating holographic markers across a global projection. So we don't. We think like humans. He highlighted 3 successful operations from the previous week. Team Beethoven used American football plays to coordinate the London infiltration. Team Mozart applied indigenous hunting techniques from 6 continents for the Cairo operation. Team Back incorporated randomized chess strategies for Johannesburg. A former CIA analyst raised her hand. The pattern recognition eye will eventually adapt. That's why we keep changing the patterns, Jackson replied. Next week, we use cooking recipes, ballet choreography, and bird migration patterns. The week after that, children's nursery rhymes. Across the planet, resistance cells operated without central command. A networked insurgency using cultural idioms impenetrable to alien surveillance. When aliens listened for coded language about weapons or targets, they instead heard discussions about cake recipes or soccer matches. Meanings decipherable only through cultural context, the consortium couldn't process. Meanwhile, Varn-K risked career termination by downloading restricted files on human history. The bureaucrat became increasingly fascinated by Earth's chaotic development. Hundreds of languages, thousands of cultures, endless adaptations to environmental challenges. Humans hadn't evolved towards greater order like every other known species. They'd evolved to thrive in disorder. When summoned before Regional Overseer Dexvary, Varn-K stood rigidly as 6 large compound eyes assessed the behavioral anomaly reports. Explain these prediction failures, demanded the Overseer, appendages twitching with irritation. Varn-K hesitated before making the career-ending admission. They cannot be categorized because their evolutionary strength is their refusal to be categorized. Unacceptable, clicked Dexvary. Recalibrate the models. Apply higher-order constraint parameters. I have attempted 14 recalibrations, Varn-K replied. The results remain outside acceptable parameters. Then you are relieved of your duties pending biological reprocessing. That night, as Varn-K prepared personal affairs for termination, an untraceable message appeared on the private terminal. We know you understand. Come find us. Attached was a musical sequence, Mozart's Symphony No. 40. Varn-K had been studying human music as part of the research and recognized not just the melody, but what humans call the emotional resonance of the piece. For the first time in a life dedicated to perfect order, Varn-K made a completely unpredictable decision. The consortium compliance cruiser Inevitable Order descended through storm clouds over the ruins of Rio de Janeiro. its obsidian hull bristling with weaponry designed to quell rebellions across 1,000 worlds. Inside the command chamber, Commander Nexforal's exoskeleton clicked impatiently as he reviewed tactical simulations. "These primates will break like all others," he assured his warriors, compound eyes gleaming with anticipation. "Their resistance lacks purpose, lacks unity. We will establish order." The warriors of the compliance unit had crushed rebellions on 37 worlds. Their neural implants contained perfect tactical solutions for every possible scenario, refined through millennia of conquest. Their armor rendered them nearly invulnerable to Earth weaponry. Their victory was mathematically certain. 24 hours later, half the compliance force was trapped in a cascading series of ambushes that defied all tactical logic. Human fighters retreated when advantage existed, attacked against overwhelming odds, abandoned and booby-trapped valuable positions, all for no apparent strategic purpose. "They fight like madmen," reported Field Commander Zex Morrell, his transmission punctuated by explosion static. "They use primitive projectile weapons alongside our own technology. They sing while dying. They laugh when wounded. Request new prediction parameters." In a fortified bunker beneath Detroit, Dr. Chen hunched over an illuminated table displaying the evolutionary history of the 7 consortium species. Jackson watched her work, nursing a glass of amber liquid, whiskey stolen from a consortium diplomatic vessel. "I found it," Chen said finally, eyes bright with realization. "The critical difference. All consortium species evolved on planets with extraordinarily stable environments. Minimal climate variation, few natural disasters, predictable resource distribution. Their evolution rewarded order and hierarchy." She pulled up Earth's tumultuous history on a neighboring display. Earth should have been impossible by their standards. Our planet survived 5 mass extinctions. Our species survived ice ages, supervolcanoes, meteor impacts. We're the children of chaos, and chaos is their weakness. Jackson nodded slowly, understanding dawning. "So we weaponize unpredictability." "Exactly. Every consortium technology, from weapons to governance systems, operates on predictive algorithms. When faced with truly random behavior, the system crashes," Jackson finished. Meanwhile, in Shanghai, 17-year-old mathematical prodigy Mai Zong appeared to diligently calibrate neural restraint collars in a consortium research facility. Her hands moved precisely as expected. Her face maintained the appropriate expression of docile concentration, but her mind was elsewhere. For weeks, she had been exploiting microsecond vulnerabilities in the facility's security protocols, decrypting ancient communication logs stored in supposedly inaccessible archives. Her eyes widened at what she discovered: recordings of violent disputes between consortium species, hidden genocide campaigns, ruthlessly suppressed rebellions. "They're not united," she whispered to her hidden resistance contact during a calculated 3-second surveillance blind spot. "They hate each other almost as much as they hate us, and Earth is making it worse." That night, Jackson launched Operation Nonsense, attacking consortium facilities with battle plans derived from chess openings, jazz improvisations, and children's games. Human fighters moved according to patterns from Shakespeare plays, baseball strategies, and abstract expressionist painting techniques. The consortium's vaunted prediction systems didn't merely fail, they imploded, corrupting connected networks across local space. For 6 crucial hours, alien forces stood paralyzed, unable to process the tactical chaos confronting them. When the inevitable order finally managed to reestablish communication with Consortium Command, Nexforal faced an uncomfortable truth. For the first time in his extensive military career, he had no explanation for defeat. "They are not fighting a war," he reported. "They are playing a game we cannot understand." Is it true about Earth? The question rippled through spaceport bars, merchant guilds, and servant quarters across 12 star systems. Grainy footage of consortium forces retreating from human ambushes became the most illegally replicated data sequence in the sector. The silent transmission, passed from maintenance worker to cargo pilot to translator droid, showed unmistakable images of the feared inevitable order in full retreat from primitive humans wielding improvised weapons. On Ardal Prime, a world that had obeyed its Tier 3 classification for 8 centuries, tentacled philosophers gathered in unprecedented numbers outside Consortium administrative towers. When enforcement drones descended, the Ardelians, known throughout the sector for their mathematical poetry and passive acceptance, responded with tactics clearly inspired by Earth's resistance. "We calculate our own value," they chanted in perfect harmonic resonance. "We derive our own function." In a rain-soaked forest outside Vancouver, Dr. Chen approached a hooded figure waiting beneath massive cedars. Water dripped from ancient branches as Varnko pushed back the hood, revealing iridescent skin, now dull with stress, and 4 arms trembling not from the cold but from fear. One hand clutched a data crystal with a death grip. "I accessed the forbidden archives before fleeing," the alien explained, voice modulator struggling with emotion concepts it wasn't designed to translate. A holographic projection materialized between them, worlds and species Chen had never seen. "You are not the first to resist," Varnko continued, manipulating the display with precise movements. "Merely the first to survive past initial rebellion. The others were removed. Completely." The word hung between them like the mist. Dozens of civilizations, billions of sentient beings, erased. "Why help us?" Chen asked, studying the alien's face. "You're risking everything." Varnko reached out with a delicate 6-fingered hand, touching a raindrop suspended on a leaf with surprising gentleness. "Because in 12,000 years serving the hierarchy," the alien whispered, "I never once felt wonder, until I studied humans." Meanwhile, beneath Antarctic ice, Jackson's elite strike team executed the war's most audacious mission. They didn't merely destroy the Continental Communication Array. They captured it intact, along with 3 Consortium scout ships in maintenance dock. "This changes everything," Jackson told his team as human pilots cautiously guided the alien vessels into orbit. "We're no longer just fighting for Earth." When the scout ships achieved stable orbit, celebration among resistance members was tempered by sobering reality. Humanity had become interstellar, and there was no turning back. On distant Consortium capital worlds, behavioral prediction systems began experiencing catastrophic cascade failures as the Earth anomaly spread through connected networks. Central Control's attempts to isolate the corruption only accelerated its spread, creating mathematical chaos in systems that had run flawlessly for millennia. In the highest chamber of the Galactic Consortium, the 7 founders gathered for the first time in 3,000 years. The arachnoid Orvani representative's agitation sent pheromone signals of rage through the chamber. "The human contagion must be cleansed," it clicked. "Complete planetary sterilization." The gelatinous Dax representative pulsed with contrary light patterns. "Our analysis suggests the hierarchical model itself may be flawed." For the first time in recorded history, the 7 founders ended a session without consensus, a mathematical impossibility according to governance algorithms active since the Consortium's founding. The first fracture had appeared in the perfect order of 12,000 years. "We come from Earth. We bring opportunity." The message, broadcast from captured Consortium vessels to carefully identified resistance cells on 5 subjugated worlds, violated every protocol in galactic history. Species that should never communicate directly, the crystalline Phyraxians, the methane-breathing coal, the hive-minded Tellurids, found themselves in encrypted quantum channels with humans and each other. In a repurposed missile silo beneath Montana's rugged wilderness, Mei Zong's fingers flew across stolen alien interfaces. At 17, she had become the Resistance's most valuable asset, her mathematical genius allowing her to decipher Consortium code structures that had confounded Earth's best cryptographers. Their entire communication network relies on absolute predictability, she explained to visiting alien delegates while a string quartet played Dork in the background. The aliens tilted their varied sensory appendages toward the music with expressions of confusion and wonder. "That's why we've built a system based on jazz improvisation," May continued, displaying complex equations that incorporated musical principles. "Every signal contains deliberate randomness patterns that trigger consortium security filters to destroy themselves." She activated the system, dubbed the Discord Protocol. "We can now communicate across their territory without detection." Meanwhile, across consortium space, the emergency conclave of the 7 founders deteriorated into chaos unprecedented in 3 millennia. The spider-like Orvani demanded immediate extermination of humanity, down to the microbes in their soil, while the gelatinous Dax collective presented disturbing system analysis. The hierarchical model itself was failing across 38% of consortium space. "The human anomaly is spreading," pulsed the Dax representative, its translucent body flashing with data patterns. "Subjugated species are exhibiting unpredictable behaviors." "Then we exterminate them as well," clicked the Orvani, mandibles twitching aggressively. "The resources required would collapse our economic structure," countered the crystalline Nerulean representative. As accusations of incompetence escalated to threats of secession, ancient weapons platforms, long dormant, began powering up around disputed territories. The perfect order maintained for 12,000 years was unraveling in months. Oblivious to the growing internal crisis, Jackson coordinated Operation Pandora from an asteroid base at the edge of the solar system. Humanity's first off-world military installation was crude but functional, carved into the metallic asteroid's core. "Today we strike not just for Earth, but for every world suffering under consortium control," he told the assembled commanders, human and alien alike. "Our target is not their military might, but the foundation of their power, predictability itself." When the attack came, it defied all consortium defense parameters. Simultaneous uprisings on 19 worlds, each using tactics drawn from Earth's diverse military history, but adapted to local conditions. Coal fighters implemented Napoleon's flanking maneuvers in 3-dimensional space. Tellurid hive clusters applied Apache guerrilla tactics. Pharaxian crystal ships executed maritime strategies from Earth's age of sail. The consortium's vaunted prediction engines didn't merely fail, they imploded, corrupting connected systems across their domain. Security protocols designed to counter specific threats found themselves responding to shadows, while actual attacks proceeded unimpeded. For the first time in recorded history, the Galactic Consortium faced an enemy it could not categorize, could not predict, and therefore could not defeat. In the wake of Operation Pandora's success, representatives from 7 liberated worlds gathered aboard the captured consortium vessel Defiance, now repurposed as humanity's first diplomatic ship. Their mission: to forge what Dr. Chen had dubbed the Coalition of Chaos, the first interspecies alliance in galactic history based not on hierarchy, but on self-determination. 12,000 years of perfect order, destroyed in 18 months by primitives who still burn hydrocarbons. The Orvani High Executor's mandibles clicked furiously in the sacred chamber of Thorax, where the consortium's ruling conclave had devolved into unprecedented chaos. Ancient holographic treaties materialized and shattered as millennium-old territorial disputes erupted between founding species. Security drones, confused by conflicting priority commands, began firing on their masters. 3 distinct factions crystallized from the chaos. The hardliners led by the Orvani, demanding Earth's sterilization. The reformists, primarily Dax and Nerulean, arguing for fundamental restructuring of the hierarchy. And the preservationists, insisting on complete isolation from the human contagion. In the chamber center, the Prime Matrix, an artificial intelligence that had mediated consortium governance for millennia, began displaying error messages in thousands of languages. Its processing cores, designed to calculate perfect consensus, faced an irreconcilable paradox: the 7 founders disagreeing. "The system cannot be preserved through destruction," pulsed the Dax representative, its gelatinous form rippling with intensity. A hierarchy must evolve. Evolution is extinction, countered the Orvani, venom glands swelling dangerously beneath ornate ceremonial armor. Purification is the only solution. As the conclave deteriorated into the first interspecies armed conflict in recorded consortium history, Jackson received intelligence from Maizong that changed everything. The location of the consortium's central data repository on Urix Prime. Every record of every civilization they've encountered, explained May through a secure Discord protocol channel, including those they erased. In the war room aboard the captured battlecruiser Defiance, Dr. Chen studied the intelligence with concern. "It's a trap," she warned, noting the suspiciously incomplete defensive schematics. "Possibly," Jackson agreed, studying tactical projections with Ardelian and Phyraxian commanders. "But some traps must be sprung." The multi-species assault force that emerged from hyperspace above Urix Prime found not the expected defensive armada, but a planet in the midst of its own rebellion. The Uryxians, pale, six-limbed beings who had maintained the repository for millennia, had chosen this moment to claim their independence. "We intercepted communications about your coalition," explained Seer Technician Viraxel, leader of the Uryxian uprising. "If the hierarchy can be broken, we wish to help break it." Inside the planet's crystalline data core, human technicians led by Maizong worked frantically alongside aliens from 7 liberated worlds to decrypt the repository's contents. What they released caused interstellar communication networks to seize with activity. Unaltered records of countless civilizations systematically erased from history for developing hierarchical incompatibilities. Confirmation of genocide campaigns against species showing excessive individualism. Most devastating of all, proof that the consortium's founding myth of benevolent unification was, in fact, a calculated conquest by the Orvani, who had manipulated the other 6 species through falsified threats. "They've been lying to everyone, including themselves, for 12,000 years, whispered Dr. Chen as she reviewed the data. "Their entire civilization is built on fabricated consensus." Within days, 32 worlds formally seceded from consortium authority. Beacon stations across the sector broadcast the suppressed histories in all known languages. The reformist faction gained support as the truth spread, while hardliner forces began mobilizing for what they called system purification. As Jackson observed the coalition fleet growing daily with defecting consortium vessels, he understood that victory was no longer the greatest challenge. It was what came after. "We didn't just break their hierarchy," he told Dr. Chen as they watched ships of a dozen species maneuvering together in the void. "We broke history itself. Now we need to build something better. History teaches us that power vacuums don't remain empty." Dr. Chen stood before an unprecedented gathering. Representatives of 22 newly independent species aboard the converted consortium battlecruiser Defiance, currently orbiting Jupiter. The vessel's Grand Assembly Chamber, once reserved for consortium high officials, now hosted beings never meant to communicate as equals. Violent clashes had erupted in 3 systems as opportunistic warlords attempted to establish new mini-hierarchies. The holographic display behind Chen showed various governance systems from Earth's history: Athenian democracy, Iroquois confederacy, Swiss federalism, digital networks. "We propose neither anarchy nor new hierarchy," she continued, "but something evolution itself favors: adaptive systems with distributed power." Initial skepticism, particularly from the hive-minded Tellurids who found individual voting incomprehensible, turned to cautious interest when Chen proposed a practical test. A volatile resource dispute between 3 systems on the verge of war became the proving ground for Earth's radical ideas. "Each species contributes representatives proportional to population," explained Chen to the gathered diplomats. "Decisions require not universal agreement, but sufficient consensus across diverse interests." The dispute, centered around access to rare atmospheric compounds found only in gas giants, had seemed irresolvable under hierarchical models. Under Chen's proposed framework, the solution emerged through negotiation. Shared extraction rights, technology exchange, and mutual defense pacts. Key to this success was Varnka, now bearing ceremonial scars of Earth citizenship, who translated abstract human concepts like consent of the governed into frameworks matching the neural and social architectures of radically different species. The consortium succeeded for millennia because hierarchy is simple, Varnka explained to a gathering of newly liberated diplomats. But simplicity is fragile. Complexity, human complexity, is resilient. This theory faced its ultimate test when the Orveni hardliners, having secured control of the fracturing consortium, launched a massive assault against Earth with a clear ultimatum: surrender to immediate sterilization or watch Sol's star be artificially collapsed. The battle unfolded unlike any in galactic history. The Orveni's rigid battle formations met a defensive network of 24 species, using combat techniques from every human culture, adapted to species-specific capabilities. Cole Methan brothers implemented Zulu flanking maneuvers. Crystalline Phyraxians applied Mongol horse archer tactics to three-dimensional space. Aboard the Orveni command vessel, Executor Tharvex faced collapse as tactical displays showed patterns conforming to no known military doctrine. They attack in musical patterns, reported a confused tactical officer. They defend according to mathematical constants that change every 7.3 minutes. There is no logic. There is their logic, replied Tharvex, finally understanding too late. The logic of adaptation itself. The human-led defensive succeeded not through superior firepower, but through unpredictable adaptation that left Orveni commanders paralyzed with indecision. When the consortium fleet finally retreated, they left behind not just a battlefield victory for Earth, but proof that a new model of interspecies cooperation could succeed where 12,000 years of hierarchy had ultimately failed. In the battle's aftermath, representatives from 27 species gathered on Earth's moon to sign the founding charter of what Chin named the Adaptive Coalition of Sentient Worlds. As the delegates raised their diverse appendages in unanimous agreement, Jackson leaned toward Chin and whispered, "Not bad for a species that still burns hydrocarbons." Dawn broke over New Amazon, the first human settlement on a world beyond Sol. 5 years after first contact, children of 3 species played in parks designed by Earth landscape architects, while a symphony composed by Tellurid hive composers and human musicians echoed through the settlement's central dome. The consortium still existed, but as merely one of 7 interstellar political entities, forced to adopt reforms that would have been unimaginable before the human disruption. Above the settlement, the massive diplomatic vessel Earthrise prepared to receive representatives from a newly discovered civilization from the galaxy's outer rim, come to evaluate membership in the Adaptive Coalition, now encompassing 43 distinct species across 62 worlds. Aboard, familiar faces had assumed unexpected roles. Mai Zong, the teenage math prodigy turned resistance hero, now directed the Coalition's revolutionary cultural exchange initiative that had transformed interstellar civilization. I've cataloged 273 distinct cultural revolutions triggered by exposure to human art forms alone. She explained to visiting dignitaries, while guiding them through a gallery where Ardelian crystal sculptures inspired by hip-hop music hovered next to Renaissance paintings reimagined by methane-breathing coal artisans. The most successful adaptations arise at cultural intersections, Mai continued. Just as on Earth, innovation flourishes where differences meet. Elsewhere on the ship, Commander Jackson, scared but unbowed, led a training session for the Coalition's first truly multi-species peacekeeping force. Representatives from 17 worlds observed his methods with respectful attention. The goal isn't to fight alike, he instructed the diverse gathering, but to fight together, each according to your strengths. Unity doesn't mean uniformity. In the vessel's diplomatic heart, Dr. Chen, now bearing the formal title of Earth's Coalition representative, prepared for first contact with the galaxy's newest potential members. At her side stood Varnka, former consortium bureaucrat, now bearing the unique title Translator of Ways. When the visiting dignitaries expressed astonishment at finding not the legendary consortium hegemony, but this vibrant, chaotic coalition, they asked what happened to change the galaxy's course. Varnke activated a holographic display showing Earth. Blue, cloud-swirled, seemingly insignificant, and simply stated, "They taught us that the universe is too complex for hierarchy. That adaptation, not control, is the true path to the stars." As the meeting concluded, the visitors were invited to tour the Coalition Memorial Gardens, where tributes to those lost in the liberation struggle, human and alien alike, stood together beneath an open sky. The most visited monument bore no heroic figure, no grand statement, just a simple plaque showing Earth's position in the galactic spiral with an inscription in 27 languages. From one world's refusal to surrender came a galaxy's chance to thrive. Later, as Earth rose over the settlement's horizon, Varnke found Dr. Chen observing the view from the diplomatic tower's observation deck. "Did you ever imagine this outcome when you were cataloging theoretical alien governance models?" Varnke asked. Chen smiled, watching children of 3 species playing a game with rules they were clearly inventing as they went along. "I imagined resistance. I never imagined transformation." The consortium sought to make the galaxy predictable. Varnke reflected. Humans made it interesting instead. "And that," said Chen, "makes all the difference."